A person who has worked themselves to the bone, making more money than they need, made themselves miserable with stress, made their family miserable with stress, inflicted evil on the world, and made their bank account huge, that person makes perfect sense to everyone. They don't have to explain themselves. And some other person that spent a lot of their time playing with their friends, playing games with their friends, tabletop role-playing games, that person is ridiculous, and the world demands that they explain their ridiculous self.
Waarom is een nerd die in een kelder rollenspellen speelt zo'n paria? En worden steenrijke zakenmensen juist presidenten en premiers? Thi Nguyen is een filosoof en toevallig ook een fanatieke boulderaar uit Utah in de Verenigde Staten, die over dat soort vragen zijn hoofd breekt. Hij houdt zich al jaren bezig met een nog vrij onontgonnen gebied, de filosofie van het spel. Maar hij begint gaandeweg steeds meer overeenkomsten te zien met het zogenaamde echte leven.
Playing a game is voluntarily taking on unnecessary obstacles to create the possibility of struggling to overcome them. In normal life, you're just trying to get something. You have some outcome or product that you want, and you're just trying to get there as efficiently as you can. But in games, you do something really weird. You put obstacles in the way on purpose. One of the things that often happens to you if you're a climber is you're trying to go up this very painfully difficult thing, and then like a 7-year-old kid will run up the back and be like, "Hey, mister, you're doing it the dumb way. You should go up the back. It's easy back here," right? Bouldering, I think, is one of the most obvious games because it is so enormously stupid. It's like one of the things, I think it's up there with like catch and release fishing. Like maybe with rope climbing, you could imagine going to places you couldn't get anywhere else. But these boulders, every single one has an easy way up the back. What other reason to do that is there than because the process of learning it and doing it is interesting? Look at what we're doing in games, how ridiculous they are. Either they're absurd and insane and they make no sense, or the process of doing is an incredibly important part of human life and we've missed it. And I think this is one of the reasons why I cared so much about writing about games as a philosopher. It's that I think they're a reminder of all the stuff we've forgotten. They're a crystallization of how much it matters to play and be doing. And for me, that's part of a diagnosis of seeing what has gone missing from the human world.
Nguyen schreef al over spellen lang voordat het hip was. Met ledenogen keek hij toe hoe de afgelopen jaren ideeën over al dan niet ludieke spelelementen op allerlei manieren infiltreerden in het echte leven. Het is het G-woord voor Nguyen. Gamification.
People said like, oh, you love games. You must love gamification. You must love the gamification of work and the gamification of education. And I thought, oh God, no. Right? My first instinct was to recoil and to say something like, if you truly understand games, then you'll understand that gamification is taking this beautiful thing and perverting it and dragging the superficial aspects of games out of context and slapping them onto something that destroys the most beautiful human part of life.
If you're looking for fitness apps that actually make a difference, that's tracking your workouts properly, nutrition tracking, water tracking, sleep tracking, or simplifying your entire health setup, you're in the right place.
This smart water bottle, all you have to do is drink. It'll automatically update on the phone how much you drank.
It's easy for people to focus on a few obvious examples, like the apps. Like it's really easy for people to focus on social media and Fitbit and Duolingo. And I think that kind of pervasive exposure to a gamification, it does something to us. But I think in the background, there's an even larger set of phenomena that are more intrusive and more subtle and not driven by apps. Becoming obsessed with your weight or BMI, becoming obsessed with, so a lot of academics clearly care about the status ranking of the journals they publish in. People became obsessed right now with sleep tracking, getting optimum sleep hours. I was talking to some people saying that they had become parts of these online reading clubs that really emphasized number of pages read. And they had started drifting towards reading easier material that they could get through more of so their number of pages read could go up. One place where I suddenly realized how interesting games were was a lecture given by Rainer Knizia, who is one of my favorite game designers. He's sometimes considered the Mozart of European board game design, right? And what he says in one of his lectures is that the most important tool in his toolbox is the scoring system, because the scoring system tells the player what to care about during the game. It sets their desires. And to me, like, this is so interesting and so true, and it captures the bizarreness of the experience of playing games, where I open up a rule book with my wife and it suddenly tells me not just what we're trying to do, it even tells me whether we're cooperating or like trying to kill each other, right? I mean, I think this is this weird experience of board games. We can open up a new board game and be like, we're gonna do something, we don't know what. And then the board game says, now you're cooperating to stop the pandemic. Or it says, now you're gonna try to kill each other's infrastructure. And you just do it. I am an academic, which means that I'm supposed to be doing interesting philosophy and teaching people about how to be critical thinkers. And instead, I find a huge amount of my life oriented towards metrics that I despise. Like, I care about students having more fulfilling lives, being more reflective, being more ethical, thinking through their beliefs. And the universities I've been in care about graduation rates, graduation speeds, and starting salaries, and basically nothing else. And somewhere in that collision was like this very, I think, raw, like, what the hell is going on? How could, like, this thing that should have been holy, the university, have become so corrupted by these incredibly narrow things? I think a lot of the times when I teach ethics, it slightly impedes students getting the maximum, I shouldn't say this on camera, but it impedes students getting the best salary as quickly as possible because they might pause before they take a certain job and think like, whoa, that's evil, right? But none of these things are measured easily. Value capture is any case where an individual or a community has values that are deep and rich and subtle, or they're developing that way, and then they get put next to a simplified expression of that value, often a quantified one, and the simplified, quantified version takes over. I think people already know that there's some standard gap between what's easy to measure and what we should pursue. And they know that there's a problem when we incentivize based on metrics, but I'm worried about something even deeper, I think, which is when the metrics intrude inside you, when you take them on as core values, like going on Facebook to connect to people and getting obsessed with likes and follows, or going into journalism to connect to the world and inform people about things and report on newsworthy important acts, and getting obsessed with page views.
That one hits home quite hard.
I mean, YouTube's a really good case. So let's say you're a journalist and you really care about getting news to people, then page views might be important to you as an instrument. It might be important to you as a tool. Like, you know you won't reach people without page views, but you also know that there's a deeper purpose behind it, right? Value capture is the case where a journalist just cares about page views. And I think that's the thing that I'm really worried about, when metrics intrude into the final seat of your decision-making procedure.
When was the last time you yourself got value captured?
I mean, constantly. It's so hard to resist every time I have gone viral on any social media. Like, I feel it. It's particularly ironic when I get a lot of likes for railing against people getting too obsessed with likes. And then I can even feel it in myself. Like, I get more likes if I make the message kind of dumber and simpler. And then there's that little bit that's like, oh, you want that. And like, I'll even feel it press into me, even when I've written a book about the worries about it. I mean, I'm so vulnerable to it that at some point I started tracking my nutritional intake. And for the first few months, it was great. It helped like hugely. Like I felt much better. My stomach felt better. My body felt better. I was less sleepy. It was great. And I stopped eating as much juice and cookies and chips, and I started eating more like kind of healthy vegetable and proteiny stews. Using simple numbers and rebalancing a little bit towards standard recommendations was great. And then I got obsessed.
I want to talk about measuring food. What is an actual serving size? This is 100 calories.
These are 100 calories with 3 grams of protein. No, they don't pass our protein test, but we're talking about dessert here, guys.
So I got a tracking app where I could record the nutrient profile of everything I was eating. And one of the things I quickly found out was that it was really easy to enter nutritional information off of a box, like a pre-made meal, but it was really painful if I cooked like a complex stew and I started eating more pre-prepared food in boxes because the nutritional information was easy to enter. It should be really obvious that making a stew from the farmer's market with a lot of vegetables and meat in it is gonna be good for you. But the desire to measure it precisely gives us a reason not to do it because it's harder to measure.
Why do you think we get carried away so easily with these simple scoring systems, these metrics, the nutrition? Why is it so appealing to us?
If you asked me 5 years ago, I would have been like, it's the apps, it's user interface design, it's hacking our neurochemistry. But then I just started looking at how many examples didn't fit that, right? Like, when a politician cuts the budget to public radio, public TV, and public arts, there's not an app that's been designed to addict them. It's just the clarity of the numbers. I call it value clarity, the fact that like games make things really simple for us to understand how well we're doing, right? In normal life, when you have a value like I want to be healthy, I want to have a good family, I want to be a good parent, I want to be a good member of the community, it's really hard to measure those things. But in a game tells you exactly how to count scores and exactly how to integrate them into a single measure. And this is, I think, a kind of relief that metrics give us. But I think that's not a complete answer. Metrics don't just make things clear to us individually, they make it clear to other people too. They give us social value clarity, right?
Is that why money is such a good scoring system?
Yes, money is absolutely the biggest scoring system because it is the easiest measure that everyone shares, a shortcut to justifying ourselves to other people. I think we've gotten to a point where a person who has worked themselves to the bone, making more money than they need, that person makes perfect sense to everyone. They don't have to explain themselves. And some other person that spent a lot of their time playing with their friends, that person is ridiculous. And the world demands that they explain their ridiculous self. And that's the thing I want to understand, right? How we got to the point where one of these things is the obvious norm and the other of these things is a weird breakaway bizarreness that we like want to laugh at and demand that they explain themselves.
My parents pushed me really hard to be a very conventional kind of like doctor, lawyer, computer programmer, something like that. And none of that ever fit me. Like the fact that I became a philosopher has like always been like very confusing and disappointing for my parents.
What makes metrics really satisfying is that they're engineered for us all to understand. They're engineered conduits to connect to each other, to put us on all the same value measurement system. But the way we do that is by eliminating nuance and eliminating anything that requires high context. If I said this documentary is incredibly deep and thought-provoking, and this documentary is really beautiful, like how do you put those against each other? But if I know that one made 3 million views and the other made 5 million, then we can all objectively agree that one of them was better than the other. And if we decided that was what was valuable, then judgment about what was more valuable would be automatic and quote unquote objective, right? And this I find like terrifying. I think this is the thing that really scared the hell out of me, which is the idea that what makes metrics powerful is exactly what makes them thin and inhumane, and that's no accident. That is the design feature. I think some people think, oh, some metrics are bad accidentally, we can just fix them. And the idea here is like, no, this is how they function. This is essential to their function. It's like you can't fix the fact that a good knife is sharp and therefore dangerous, right? Its being sharp is its job. What makes metrics powerful and useful is exactly that they communicate effortlessly across contexts because they've been decontextualized. It's what makes them function as the basis for the large-scale data collection that has enabled all the advances of medicine, right? The reason that I'm alive, literally, I'm an asthmatic, I would have died of asthma 5 times at least in my life. There's another 5 more times I would have died of like pneumonia, right? And I got saved by antibiotics. And I think there's an easy story to tell, which is metrics are bad and we should stop using them. And that story is ludicrous. And it actually, it's, I think, simplifiedly optimistic. It imagines a world in which we could get past them. When I started doing this project, I thought I was looking at a 20-year trend in the use of addictive game design in apps. And now I think I'm looking at the new high point in a 1,000-year, at least, movement towards bureaucratization. And the movement is really about how much power we give this very thin, compressed way of seeing the world. We're making the world more and more similar. We're removing a lot of variation. And the more we standardize the world, the more that we forget that the world was anything else other than standard.
Zo zijn die heldere meetwaarden ons wereldwijde scoring systeem geworden. Van onze KPI's tot onze kliks en van onze engagement ratings tot onze bankrekeningen. Nguyen waarschuwt. Hoe meer we de wereld in kaart brengen met meetwaarden, hoe meer dat onze hele wereld zal worden. En er lijkt geen weg meer terug. Want de wereld beloont de mensen die het spelletje het fanatiekst meespelen.
If you take the game-like attitude, then things become very easy. You can max out for the simple measurable thing. And the people that game the system will typically do better by the metrics. It's a phenomenon I call value collapse, and it looks like this. Let's say that you're in an environment, say journalism, where there's something that really matters, like newsworthiness, informativeness, connection, richness. And then there's a simple metric, like page views, likes. If a journalistic institution starts to primarily reward people in terms of the metric, that is, give them promotions, give them more opportunities for publication, put them in charge, then what will happen is that people who are fully value captured and who are willing to do nothing but game the metric will typically rise in institutional power. And people that still care about the real thing, people that still care about all the richness beyond the metric, will typically lose. We are systematically rewarding and empowering the people that are willing to forget about the real world and treat it as a game. And if you systematically feed more power to people like that, then you should expect a world that is ever more narrow.
Game over. De winnaars van het leven zijn de mensen die zich het diepst en het blindst in het spel verliezen. Maar als je naar de maatschappij kijkt als een spelletje, waarom kun je er dan niet gewoon mee kappen?
This might be the dumbest place to get to after an entire book of philosophy, but the core difference in games and metrics is with games, if you don't like them, you can stop playing them. Games encourage us to step into them, absorb ourselves into them, use them, and then step back and ask ourselves if those scoring systems helped us achieve what we really wanted, the true value of the experience. Whether the game helped us relax or have fun or engaged in an interesting activity or had some beautiful action. And I think the pervasiveness of metrics and their centrality in institutional justification tends to discourage this, right? In that system, we're rewarding people that never step back and ask themselves if the scoring system is helping them achieve what really matters. There's a conclusion that I think a lot of people want me to have that I hate. And that conclusion is, pluck up and be playful and look at the world and just treat all the systems around you more like a game. I don't think that at all. I think a lot of the systems we're in make it incredibly hard to be playful. And there are a lot of the times our freedom is ripped away from us by large-scale infrastructure. But still, we have some control over some things. You know, maybe your workplace has incentive systems you can't wrest yourself away from. But if you go home and exercise, you don't have to bind yourself to a crappy metric there too, right? You have some measure of freedom there. Don't give that up. And yet, I think a lot of people are taking the kind of inflexible, clear metrics that are forced upon them at work and then letting them intrude to their few private spaces. But I think there's something more, which is I think a lot of people feel under the gun about a lot of metrics, but also have some under their control. I mean, I'm a professor and I complain a lot about the metrics that are put on me, but I also have a massively important metric that I put on other people, my grading system in my classes. And a lot of people I think are middle managers, are policymakers, and have some degree of control over some metric in the world. It's a way of reminding people that they can actually have some degree of control over the judgment systems in their lives. And this is not like, I'm not a particularly powerful cog in the wheel, but I've got a little bit of power.
So this is a little bit of a call to, would you say, throw a wrench in the machine?
Throw a wrench in the machine. I mean, a lot of us, we are both in the machine and part of the machine, and we have some degree of control over it.